So can everyone hear me in the back? Good. No, I'm Taylor Swift tonight. I get a special. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to welcome everyone here tonight. And with those that are watching on live stream. Tonight, we begin the holiday of Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish holidays. In order to do some congregational teshuvah, I, as president of the congregation and on behalf of the Board of Trustees and staff of Agudas Achim, would like to make a public apology to everyone. To those that we have wronged, to anyone who feels that we have hurt them in any way, to anyone who feels slighted, unacknowledged, unappreciated, or provoked, if this is the case, please know that it was never our intention to harm you or hurt your feelings. As I said, we're truly sorry. We ask for a fresh start and a clean slate. I am deeply honored and humbled to stand before you to give my final high holiday speech. That is, excluding announcements. And I'm sure you share the same joy. You may be asking yourself, why do synagogue presidents stand up on Yom Kippur and ask for the high holiday appeal? Well, a wise sage, Rabbi Yaakov ben Know-It-All, explained the following. Presidents do this because they need a good cardio workout. Who needs exercise when you have to raise your heartbeat all day long, all night long, the week before, breaking into a sweat every night as I wake up with anxiety for asking for people for money? There's no better way to conquer your fear, which was number 2, of speaking, than to stare into congregants' judgmental eyes and wonder, why the hell is he standing up here speaking tonight? Also, number 3 reason was the Torah commands congregational presidents to remind their flock that it's very important verse in the Torah that says, thou shalt not leave the synagogue without filling out your pledge card. Somewhere that's in the commentary in the very, 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 very small print, right? Then it also provides time for the rabbi to have a buffer between the singing of the Kol Nidre and the awesome spiritual sermon that he will give tonight, but for some, it's also a great opportunity to take a bathroom break from standing so long. The 5th reason he explained was the song Tradition. Tradition, tradition. He says, what's more Jewish than a little guilt trip to open your wallets during the holiest day of the year? And finally, the 6th, my mother of blessed memory said to me that it's my sole duty in life to make sure the shul stays open. And one should never argue with Hannah, ever. And aren't you glad I stopped at 6? 5784 has been a very trying year. Right after we gathered here last year, I thought New Year's was off to a great start. I was leaving for a most needed vacation to Maine, time to eat a little kosher lobster and spend some time with my wife and 7 besties. High holiday speeches were over for 10 glorious days. I had nothing to do, no synagogue business, no news, especially no politics. What more could a synagogue president ask for? The hardest thing I had on my agenda was finding places to eat where 2 of the people that were traveling with us, one was a vegan and one was allergic to seafood, and we're going to Maine. Well, day 1 of the vacation starts October 7th. We wake up to the horrible news of what occurred in Israel, and all we could say was, oh my God. Upon returning to San Antonio, Agudas Achim board took on the task of dealing with the departure of administrative leadership change at the synagogue. Next, which was about a month later, I had a routine cataract exam, and after that, I had 3 eye exams in 24 hours in 2 different cities, only to find out that I had a rare form of eye cancer. December and January went by as the slowest time. It was like it was in slow motion. Scheduling tests, waiting for them to be taken, waiting for get the results, having the treatment, awaiting, more visits and more doctor's visits, more waiting, and that was my December and January. All this caused me to occasionally drift to a very dark place, but surprisingly, what brought me back to my optimistic self that everything would be all right was humming of the Friday night Shabbat prayers, thank you, Orit and Arlene, because that got my mind off of what I was experiencing. As time passed, I had a lot of time to reflect on life. I had some common reflections that a lot of people had, and I really had some profound ones that really surprised me. Family and friends are very important. So my message tonight is don't wait for tragedy to strike. Pick up the phone, wait till after Yom Tov's over. Reach out to somebody in family or friend that you haven't talked to in a while, because you need to remember that there may not be any tomorrow. And we're always reminded of that fact. For the first time, I said this in my mother's eulogy that I gave, I finally understood her obsession with her obituary and knowing what was in it. Did I really make a difference, and what would people say about me if I was gone? Most surprisingly was how important my Jewish faith was, and my community here at Agudas Achim was to me. My Agudas prayer warriors provided me with the needed pickup every time I saw them and when I needed it most. They showed up with food, phone calls, hugs, kisses, prayers. They showed that they all cared. During this time period, Rabbi Hodson was also tuned into me because it seemed like he was my kindred spirit. Every time I would be sitting thinking something all week, miraculously without me even having to say anything, that was be part of his sermon. It was like he was reading my mind. One particular sermon was about how to alleviate bad dreams. See, Rabbi, I do pay attention. And he suggested that saying a prayer before you go to bed helps you have a more restful night. And I tried it, and it really worked. In late January, I faced probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. Do I go to the Jewish Federation airing of the raw, unedited footage of the atrocities that happened on October the 7th with other community leaders around San Antonio? Even though I had many restful nights after the program, I'm glad I went. Truthfully, what happened on October 7th was much worse than anything any of you can imagine. It was gruesome, unpleasant. It was just shocking. It was violent. It was brutal. It was horrible. There was 45 minutes of total silence. You could have dropped a pin in the room. All you heard was a little whimpering from the people like me that were sitting there with tears coming down our eyes because we couldn't believe what was going on. If I had to describe what I saw in one word, it would be bloodlust, okay? All I can say, it was pure evil. As I watched it, all that went through my mind is my kids had been to Israel, one for a whole year and one twice for up to 3 months, and it could have been them. It could have been them at the Nova Festival. It could have been them at one of the shellings. It could have been them, and thank God they came home safe. Then spring came, and I experienced something even that sickened me even more. Hearing protesters shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, resistance by any means necessary, and globalize the Intifada. All of this occurring at prestigious so-called great universities or rallies around the country or around the world. The bigots and anti-Semites were coming out of the woodwork, and I sat there at services and read the V'ahavta in English one Shabbat, and you know how it goes. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And it talked about teaching your children, and all I could think about in my mind is, as a society, We have failed to teach our children this message. On October 7th, most of the time before that period, Jews in America would sit back and just suffer in silence. We canceled services because of a threat we got. Or when we sit there and don't respond and we sit in quietly while somebody says the Jews control the world or talks to us about being frugal when they say Jew it down. All of us just have sat there and just let it happen. October 7th, however, has changed that all. There's something that urgent that happened to all of us that we can no longer be silent. The words no more and never again had true meaning to all of us, even though we said it about the Holocaust and everything. This is something we experienced firsthand and in our generation. For me, personally, October 7th triggered the feeling that we need to stand up and have our voices heard. It also made clear that our collective mission here at the synagogue over the last several years of having a strong synagogue that's vibrant, financially stable, is equally as important to me and I think to all of you. Because it's a place where these words, v'ahavta, we can make into reality. Even though I have failed tonight to be my best principle that I talked about when I trained the board of bluff, which is bottom line up front, I feel that it's important that everybody knows where I'm coming from and why I am so passionate about my service to Agudas Achim. As I see it, my job has been to explain the goals of Project Bold Future, which includes having a strong, vibrant, and financially sustainable Agudas Achim, where there's a real culture of hospitality. And finally, truly understanding that my responsibility and its importance of both being a leader and being a messenger, much like our duty to tell the story of Purim and Passover. So let's talk about my assessment of where we are today. First, let's talk about our great successes. God really blessed us when he sent us the person that was born where, Rabbi?
Born in Temple, Texas.
Born in a temple. Okay? It was a true Beshert moment. Our staff that we have gathered tonight is second to none. They care and have been working hard to make both be fiscally responsible and have great programming, which is sometimes hard to do. To my friend Mike Caldney, I promised that I would have the men's club taken care of by the time my term was over, so I have 2 months to go, but I'm proud to announce the men's club held their first event in several years, so we're working on it, Mike, and I hope that it will be able to check it off my list. Members are starting to feel good about our synagogue. Attendance is up at almost everything, including services. We have finally turned around our membership decline, and over the last 2 or 3 months have been adding members at record pace. Thank you to ADKF Accounting, because finally for 12 months we've gotten financial statements that are accurate where we can make great decisions, and we've worked on the processes that we need so that everybody knows how to handle situations and what we need to do. Next, I'd like to go over a few of my disappointments that come from a loss of focus on my part, partially due to my illness and partially due to death and family of friends. But phase 2 of Project Bold Future has stalled, and it's my hope that Gal and the next board of trustees will make that a major part of their activities so that we can move to the next step. Membership declined, but we've taken care of that. And while change is inevitable, there are some who also are resistant to change. My hope in the new year going forward is that collectively we navigate our path to future growth and long-term sustainability. My other failure, and I take this as my failure, is that I have really tried my best to get people to focus on the big picture instead of the minutia. and I have not totally been successful at that. Because in order for us to succeed as a congregation, we all need to be going down the same road on a straight line and quit this zigzagging. When somebody doesn't like something, we have to change it. We need to know our purpose and head there. Now for the challenges that we need to address to thrive and survive. I feel that it's important to tell you what you need to know, not necessarily what you want to hear. And so someone wrote me an email that kind of inspired me a little and said something to the fact that, over the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like we've had a boat with 1,000 holes in it, and we've been moving our fingers to plug the holes, and finally we have plugged most of them, and the remaining hole that we have to fill is our income. I truly hope that this is so, that we only, the only thing we have to do is address the income side of our equation. I went back and looked at 2009 when we adopted our flat rate dues structure. We moved from a dues based on a percentage of your income to a flat rate. In excerpts from the minutes, they projected that we would have somewhere between 638 and 947, depending on how many dues subsidies we gave and if people continued to pay their enhanced dues. That year we collected, 2010, around $700,000, which in today's dollars would be way over $1 million. In 2024, we are projected to collect only $780,000, which is $200,000 or $300,000 less than the adjusted inflation number that we had. Part of that same flat rate dues structure is we created a life member category that gave anyone that was over 85 years of age and was a member for 25 years free membership, i.e. no dues. When adopted, there were only 1 or 2 people in the whole congregation that qualified. Today there are 34, and there's about 20 or 30 that are getting close and on the horizon. In 2009, our enhanced dues was $155,000, which today would be about $230,000, and this year we collected $133,000. As I said earlier, we have been fiscally responsible on the expense side of the equation. We have cut around $150,000 from our expenditures from the previous year, and your board is being very fiscally responsible where expenses are concerned. However, today we have had to rely more and more on fundraising, which in my opinion is not going to be sustainable forever. We need to figure out how we get a second clergy here or some kind of music director, or we're going to burn the rabbi out. We need to increase our dues so that we are collecting enough to pay our bills without having to do massive fundraising. And before I get strung up on Yom Kippur, we need to honor the commitment we made to all our current life members while considering adjusting the no dues policy for those people in the future. We must have the intestinal fortitude to discuss this issue and develop viable solutions. It's simple. Revenue needs to increase or our service levels need to decrease. That's really the only 2 choices. We are not the federal government, can't print money, can't have deficit spending forever. And as president, I promised to address tough issues and tell you what you needed to know. And while I have been able to address many of them, this is one that has not yet been solved. So I hope our leaders, including myself, will have the courage to address this issue and understand and explain to the congregation what the solutions are and get everybody on board with adopting them. So to come full circle as to why I'm here tonight, it's not because I need a cardio workout. It's not because I need practice public speaking. The rabbi doesn't need a buffer. The Torah doesn't have a verse in it. And I really don't believe in a guilt trip. So let me start off by tactfully trying to say some things, something that I'm not always good at. I am not trying to embarrass anyone here or make anybody have discomfort. I want to hopefully motivate you. I'm going to announce what Lauren and I are planning to give to both be transparent and hopefully to encourage others to participate and do the same. I know everybody is in a different financial position, and I know your capacity to give differs from member to member. So it's important for me that everybody understand that all I'm asking you to do is to give within your financial means, your fair share. But I'm asking you to consider this year stretching a little so that we end the year at a break even. Any contribution, big or small, will be greatly appreciated and will have a big impact on the synagogue's financial well-being and will be much appreciated by me, the rabbi, the board of trustees. I really believe in putting my money where my mouth is, and because Lauren and I have been especially blessed this year with our Agudas Achim family's encouragement, prayers, thoughtfulness, and all that while I was healing, both of us would like to lead by example by pledging $10,000 to the holiday appeal and an additional $5,000 to my friend Robbie for a personal sponsorship in addition to what we've done for the Texas Kosher Barbecue. Helen Keller once wrote, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." So in that vein, I invite you to join us and encourage you to focus on the cause. Lauren and I are truly committed, we are all in, and we pray that you are too. Lastly, I believe it's also important to acknowledge that it was the past generation who made it possible for all of us to be here today. And with my mother's voice ringing in my heart and in my ears, I feel that I owe it to the next generation to ensure they too have a place to be Jewish. This place is Agudas Achim, where we can learn, pray, and have fun together. So the logistics are, is you should have received a card. We are not going to pass the basket as we did last couple of years because I got more complaints about that than anything. So I'm going to trust everybody. There's a basket outside if you want to do it tonight. If you want to take it home and think about it, you can make your pledge online or call the synagogue office and they'll take it and process it for you. I thank you for your patience, for letting me get up here and speak. I know it's a little long tonight, and especially since it's cold Nidre, but it's a very important cause to me that this place stay here and be here 20, 50, 100 years from now. Gamar Hasatin Tova, may you have an easy fast and a meaningful Yom Kippur. Thank you.